Level 3, which is basically what I do for all of my flights, is also the hardest one, but as you fly more and more, you'll learn how to do this better and better, and it'll make it much cheaper and easier to fly. Method 3 is, hey everyone, I'm Jack, and in the last 2 years, I've taken 47 plus flights. In this video, I'm going to teach you the 3 levels of booking flights and how you could find the cheapest flights no matter where you're from. I hope you like this. Let's get right into it. So to first get the most basic misconceptions out of the way is a lot of people say you have to book on a certain day or you have to use a VPN or that you should be using incognito mode. In my experience, I never do that, and I've actually run into issues while using VPNs. When I was booking a flight on flynorth.com, it actually wouldn't load any of the destinations while I had my VPN on. So unless you're in somewhere where it just won't let you load the website and a VPN fixes that, most of the time I actually found VPNs cause a problem over help me. So although maybe you'll save a few dollars in certain cases where a VPN would help or incognito, generally it's okay to book any day in my opinion, as long as you're being flexible with the dates that you're going to be flying. I've found in my experience that that's much more important than what day you're booking on. Yes, sometimes there are deals depending on what airline you're using, and definitely look out for those if that's something you could do. A lot of the really budget airlines do that sometimes, but generally the booking day is not the most important. Starting off by looking at level 1. Level 1 is going online and just searching on Google and seeing, typing in the name of where you're flying from and the destination and just clicking the first few links. Maybe Google even shows you some of the flights right in the top bar, which I'll be showing you in a few seconds. But generally, that is level 1, and you want to be upgrading past this. This is the most easy way. You could even add keywords like cheapest flights, but in general, you're not going to find the best deals just by looking at them on Google, and you're going to have to do a little more effort than that. That is an easy way if you just need a quick flight and you're in a country that has a lot of easy, cheap flights, but generally, there's better ways to do it than that. But before we get into those methods, let's take a look at this method itself. So if we take a look at the screen here, we have a searching flight from Guadalajara to London. Generally, I fly a lot from Guadalajara because my girlfriend is from there and we'll have to take some trips. Also, Mexico is historically known for having really expensive flights. It's one of the most common things I hear when speaking to people in Mexico is that flights to leave Mexico are generally very expensive, and that's where I'm going to show you the best tricks down the road. But if you look at the screen now, we just have these few flights popping up and they're in Mexican pesos, and it's 20 pesos for $1. So if you compare that to dollars, a lot of these flights are over $1,000, some of them 1,500. And the thing is, even if you add cheapest keyword, it's still going to be like 17,000 pesos, which is going to be way far out of most people's budget. So that's why this method is not the best. Even if we scroll down here, you'll see that some of the other pages are still showing like 17,000 and $500, all these different things, little too expensive. Some of them link to the main searching websites, but we're going to move on past this method. I just wanted to show you what it was like if you're using this method to book a flight. Level 2 is using Skyscanner or Google Flights or other websites where you could search for flights to find the cheapest deals. This is definitely an upgrade from just searching it on Google, and you'll find a lot better deals here as it will do some connecting flights and even put together flights from the same airline to help you find a cheaper deal. However, if you take a look at the screen here, we have 1,500 for a flight from Guadalajara to London, and the cheapest being $967. But that is a 25-hour flight, so that's going to have connections. If we look here, it's not a good deal. So if you were, say, flying from New York or London or somewhere that does have a lot of cheap flights, it's going to be easier to find flights on these websites as they're already cheap in general, so it's much easier. But if you're living in a country that has expensive flights, then Skyscanner and these other apps are not always going to work the best for you. I find they work the best for me in Europe, most places in Western Europe, in Canada, in the US, and also even in like Asia, like China or Korea. I found that it does work pretty well there as well. However, if you're flying from a country that doesn't have a lot of good flights, then this is not the best option, and that's where we'll move into level 3 after that. But I do want to take a little bit more of a search on this screen here to show you how I do it. I sometimes go about by searching monthly prices rather than just specific dates. If you see as we're looking through here, you can see all the changes in the pricing as we search through different months and different times we're leaving. You could also search by like any destination if you just want to see what are the cheapest destinations from the places you're flying and you don't have somewhere specific in mind. However, even on Google Flights, which has a bit more features and shows some cheaper flights, they even show like the one-way compared to the round trip. Sometimes booking the one-ways separately from different airlines can be cheaper as well. Still, it's not giving us the best deals that we could find. Saying the cheapest and fastest flight is going to be 13 hours, you're going to be paying $1,000 at least for an economy seat. It's not going to be the best experience, and that's where we're going to move on to level 3. Level 3, which is basically what I do for all of my flights, is also the hardest one, but as you fly more and more, you'll learn how to do this better and better, and it'll make it much cheaper and easier to fly. Method 3 is looking on different airline websites that you know of and kind of making your own flight paths in a way. So picking and choosing the cheapest airlines and flying to cities that are going to have the cheapest flights so that you could take the routes on the cheapest airlines. For example, I normally fly with Volaris to and from Mexico because they sell an annual pass that's only $350 when I bought it. I believe it's up to $500 now. However, that allows me to just pay the tax to fly from Guadalajara to Los Angeles, California, or to New York. Flying from either of those two cities is much cheaper to get around to the rest of the world, and then once you make it to say somewhere like Asia or Europe, you could buy the internal airlines like Ryanair and Jeju Air in those countries so that you could really mix and match and make the cheapest flight paths. Let's take a quick look at my screen here. I have pulled up the annual pass on here. This is what I bought for Volaris. As you can see, it's now $500. I bought it for $350. But this allows me to take a round trip to and from Mexico to New York for only about like $110. That's just all the tax, and this flight pass does last for 1 year. So when my girlfriend and I, who she also bought the same pass, when we wanted to go to say Japan, we booked a flight first to New York from Guadalajara so that we could meet up there, and then we flew from the cheapest flight from New York City, which was way cheaper than Guadalajara, directly to Japan. And then we were able to just buy the cheapest flight from there, fly direct to Japan from New York, and we made our own flight path. Any of these other airline websites are not going to really make a trip like that because it is very out of the way. It seems weird to go in the wrong direction and then back across. But if you're looking to save money, then adding those type of combinations together are definitely the best. As we move on past this annual pass, I'm showing you here now on the screen Norse Atlantic Airways. This is another one that I frequently fly on because it's super cheap. As you can see, in July from New York to London, only $130 per direction. If you were, of course, flying direct from New York, you're going to be paying so little, like only $260, plus you'll have to add a little tax and maybe some fees, so probably around $300. But adding in the $110 from the flight from Mexico to New York and then New York to London, total, I'd only be paying around $400 round trip, which compared to the $1,000 plus we were looking at earlier, this is a really great deal. And then I'm also pulling up here on the screen Ryanair, which is what I generally use once I get to London. And you could select London, all airports, and then fly to anywhere. And we could take a look at Spain and see flying to there. We're going to get super cheap prices like £17, £24, £25. It's so cheap once you make it there. So if you start out and know these airlines, now as you keep flying more and more or look online, you'll find the cheapest ways that you can make these own connections yourself. And it can be a little bit more stressful because you don't have the airlines backing you up if you're to miss a connection or anything like that. If it's the same airline, you might get some leeway. They might change your flight for you. But in this case, since you're booking it all yourself, you do put a little more risk on yourself. But in the efforts of spending money, it's definitely worth it. One more example I want to show is some of my friends just went to Ireland from Hartford, Connecticut. They were able to find round-trip flights from Aer Lingus for only about $350. And then again, they did the same Ryanair method that I was doing once they made it there. So this is where Model 3 really comes into its best. You want to ask around, ask your friends where they've traveled to and what are the cheapest flights that they've taken. Also, I speak about these things in my WhatsApp group, so if you're interested in learning more about direct tips, or if you have any questions for me on how I would book the cheapest flight to the destination you're going to, definitely feel free to join that down in the description. There's a lot of good information once we get talking and all of that, so I hope you could find that useful. But back to the model, yeah, they use this and you just add up. You could even use this in combination with method 2, where you could look at some of the Skyscanner stuff, especially for the bigger cities. Say you know you're going to use Volaris to get from Guadalajara to LA, then you could use Skyscanner to look from LA to anywhere you're going, maybe somewhere in Asia, as that's going to be the closest place rather than going to New York, but that was just what we're used to. So yeah, basically, that's everything. So those are the 3 methods of booking flights and how to find the cheapest flights. I'd say that, of course, it's a little hard to start with method 3, but as you fly more and more, you'll learn what airlines fly where and how much they generally cost during what season. And you'll start to be able to craft your own flight connections while you're flying. It's going to make it so much easier and cheaper to fly around the world. You'll be able to get so many flights just like I've been able to do. I hope you found this video useful. I have information on how to contact me or join my WhatsApp group in the description down below. If you're interested in learning more about travel, definitely get subscribed. They'll be putting out a lot more videos like this and other tips and tricks to learn how to travel. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.